Prohibition in the 1920s. On January 17, 1919, an amendment took effect, changing the Constitution of the United States. This amendment was the 18th Amendment. This newly implemented law meant that no alcohol could be sold, consumed, transported, manufactured, or possessed on American soil. There were many reasons at this time to ban alcohol. It was expected to reduce crime and corruption, solve social problems, and reduce the tax burden created by prisons and poorhouses, and improve health and hygiene in America. Although consumption fell at the beginning of Prohibition, it rose later on in the absence of the government supplies. Homemade alcohol became more dangerous to consume. Who was selling it? Bootleggers. What is bootlegging and why is it so successful? Bootleggers in the 1920s were very powerful people who illegally distributed or produced liquor and many other drugs. The name bootlegger originated in the 1880s, when people were trading with the Indians. They would conceal flasks of illegal liquor in their boot tops. Bootlegging is the illegal manufacturing or sale of illegal goods, especially alcohol. Bootlegging became so popular because there was all of a sudden a need for alcohol since the Prohibition law had just been implemented. All of a sudden, people found out that they could make millions off selling alcohol since the population could no longer buy it anymore, unless it was through bootlegging. There was a huge demand and money to be made. Bootleggers were smuggling alcohol into the United States from the Canadian and Mexican borders. They were also smuggling it in from ships under foreign registration. Even doctors were technically bootlegging. For a small fee, they would prescribe alcohol such as gin and whiskey as a prescription. Some corrupt pharmacists would even make false prescriptions to their customers. Another reason why bootlegging became so popular was because the government unwittingly made alcohol more desirable, more fashionable, and something eager consumers had to get their hands on. Bootleggers owned private clubs, speakeasies, and where alcohol was sold to anyone. These clubs were successful because the police were bribed by the store owners to look the other way. Speakeasies were in the hidden locales in the stores, basements, and in back rooms, and people needed to say a secret password or code to get in. Popular bootleggers in the 1920s. In the 1920s, many bootleggers seized the opportunity and made millions by bootlegging alcohol. Some of the most famous bootleggers in the 1920s include Arnold Rothstein and Al Capone. Born on January 17, 1882, Rothstein was a very famous American gambler and bootlegger. He is most known for the 1919 World Series fix, but was also the owner of many illegal speakeasies where alcohol was sold illegally. Rothstein's end came at the age of 46 after he was shot at the Park Central Hotel in New York and died in a hospital 2 days later. Al Capone was another one of the most famous bootleggers of all time, who owned many private clubs and speakeasies. He is estimated to have made $100 million per year and $60 million, which is around $1 billion today, of revenue from these speakeasies and private clubs. By the end of the decade, Capone had a lock on nearly all alcohol supplied to any of Chicago's estimated 10,000 speakeasies. How is bootlegging related to the novel The Great Gatsby? Bootlegging is related to the novel The Great Gatsby because it is set during the Prohibition era. In the novel, Jay Gatsby throws parties every week that has bars stocked with gins and liquors, and with cordials so long forgotten. This shows that people still had parties with alcohol, even though it was illegal. In the novel hints Gatsby is a bootlegger when Tom says, Gatsby and this Wolfsheim brought up lots of street-side drugstores here in Chicago and sold grain alcohol over the counter. Tom also then goes on to call Gatsby a bootlegger, and Gatsby says, what about it, and does not deny the accusation. The second way the novel The Great Gatsby is related to bootlegging is because Gatsby goes to a speakeasy where Nick meets Gatsby's friend Mayor Wolfsheim, who is supposedly modeled after Arnold Rothstein. This is because both of these people supposedly fixed the World Series in 1919 and are very wealthy bootleggers and gamblers. Finally, it is heavily inferred that Gatsby earned his fortune, at least in part, through bootlegging. How else could he be afforded the lavish parties with bottomless cocktails to spare? Conclusion. In conclusion, Prohibition was put into place to reduce crime, corruption, solve social problems, reduce tax burdens from prisons, and many more reasons. However, because of bootleggers, all of these attempts to make America better actually made it worse than they could have ever imagined.